Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Bhutan and Nepal, a hidden gem and the rebuilding of a jewel. My name is Victoria Hanson and I'm the Programme Manager here at the New York Times for Times Journeys. During the next 40 minutes, you'll hear from our accompanying expert, Donatella Lorch, as well as Rami Girgis of Abercrombie and Kent, who's helped design the itinerary. Donatella has written for the New York Times for 10 years. She was our East Africa bureau chief and has covered wars and natural disasters across the globe. She was based in Kathmandu, Nepal for 3 years and reported both during last year's devastating earthquake as well as its aftermath. And she has subsequently raised funds for and assisted in the post-quake rebuilding of a Nepali village. Donatella was the director of the Knight International Press Fellowship, which sends American reporters abroad to share their best practices of journalism, and currently lives in Ankara, Turkey. Donatella, welcome. It's fantastic to have you on the line today.
Well, it's such a pleasure to be here tonight, even if it's virtually, and it is tonight for me since it's evening in Ankara in Turkey. I am so thrilled that you guys are creating this world for a trip to Nepal and to Bhutan. Way back over 20 years ago when I started in journalism, and everyone told me that I didn't, to become a journalist, I had to go to the Midwest and work for decades in a Midwestern paper. And I just packed my bags, and first I went to Afghanistan. In the back of my mind was always this country I had visited in 1983 as a backpacker, which was Nepal. And to my surprise, my family and I moved there in 2013. I followed my husband there. I recreate myself wherever I go. And I started writing from Nepal. And initially, I had the worst, after having lived everywhere in the world, I had tremendous culture shock. And I couldn't quite figure out how to overcome it. My husband had to move to another country. I lived there alone with my son. What I discovered in the ensuing years was this most incredible country where you have a front row seat on ancient civilizations as well as on all the present problems of the world. And everything coexists side by side in Kathmandu. There's nowhere you go where you don't encounter a temple, a little shrine. You're walking along the street and you'll have to do a detour because there's this little sacred rock in the middle of the road where no matter how modern you are and whether you're a young Nepali who's gone and worked and studied overseas, you come back to Nepal and you worship with your family. It is a country, I think, in the Guinness World Book of Records with the most religious festivals of anywhere else as a national holiday. You have 7 New Years because there's for every single ethnic group. You have Hinduism in a way that it exists nowhere else in the world because it's believed to be the purest form of Hinduism. I know the Indians wouldn't agree on this, but they were invaded by the Mughals, by the Muslims coming in from the West. Nepal was never invaded. And at the same time, you have this creation and link to Buddhism coming from both up from India and then from Tibet, which is bridged by Tantric Buddhism. So you'll go into shrines. You'll have a beautiful dinner in an international restaurant or a cappuccino at a local cafe, which, by the way, all have free Wi-Fi, and everyone is linked on Facebook and on Twitter. And you will be able to go back 200 years, 300 years by entering that temple, and you will see Hindu deities right next to Buddhist deities, Buddha and the Avalokiteshvaras. And at the same time, you'll have this great opportunity to visit a city and a valley that is so much on the edge of everything that is happening in this world. It is not only has all its problems, has massive water shortages, water has to be trucked in. There's 18 hours a day in the winter of no electricity, massive and growing pollution problems, but you can wake up in the morning surrounded by the snow-capped mountains, or as I used to, I was right in front of this big 3,000-meter hill, because in Nepal 3,000 meters is considered a hill, and feel like I was transported elsewhere. In the picture you see right now, which is one of my pictures, it is one of the oldest towns in the Kathmandu Valley. It's called Kokana. It's right next to the town of Bungamati that is part of the trip. Now, both of these towns were almost completely destroyed. You'll see the wooden struts on the picture. Those were put up after the earthquake. It looks like it's pretty solid over there, but most likely that temple is going to have to come down. Most of the villages, the Newar villages in the Kathmandu Valley, are like that. They're held up temporarily by wooden struts while the Nepali people and the Nepali government try to figure out how they're going to get the money to rebuild them, to take them down, to save the architecture, to save the history. And the other great thing about Nepal that I loved is this unparalleled intimacy, which is with everything you do, even walking down the street. You get up in the morning, walk out of your hotel, and you walk around the street, and you will be able to, it's a photograph every 2 feet that you want to take. The Nepalis are incredibly generous and warm. They are not pushy. It's not like being in Delhi or in certain parts of India where you struggle through the crowds. Nepalis just want to chat with you, or they just leave you alone, or they just ignore you, or they invite you in for tea. If you go through the villages, as you will on this trip, you'll be surprised by the number of people who will just wave or say namaste or ask you in to have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, or have rakshi.
Wow.
I'm going to hand off here except for saying one thing. I lived through the earthquake with my son, and it was at the tail end of our 3 years in Nepal. And it's a very intimate part of what Nepal means to me, and the challenges it is facing right now with reconstruction. It was cut off for the past 5 months by a blockade from India, which stopped all fuel going in, and reconstruction was completely stalled. So Nepal is in a critical stage right now, and there's much to see and much to be done at that level as well. And I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks, Donatella. Wow, it sounds incredible, and detours about sacred rocks and Nepali hills. It will be a great experience for everybody. With this, I'm going to actually introduce you to Rami Girgis at Abercrombie in Kent. Now, he was born in Cairo in Egypt, where he studied and worked in Egyptology for many years before joining Abercrombie in Kent in 2005. Prior to that, he was the chief Egyptologist for a luxury Nile cruise line and was awarded in 2013, who was named, I should say, in 2013 as a top travel specialist for Egypt by Condé Nast Traveller magazine. Subsequently, he's now developing programs for A&K throughout Asia with their private jet program and special interest travel. Rami, welcome.
Thank you, Tori. It will be a hard act to follow Donatella, but I would like to talk to you today about the start of the journey and take you through Bhutan and up to get to Nepal, and then I'll hand it over to Donatella.
Just very briefly, I'm sure all of you are desperate to hear about the itinerary and all of the fun stuff. I'd just like to talk very briefly about Times Journeys and what it means to travel with the New York Times. So we currently have a program of 45 different itineraries, each of which is accompanied by a New York Times journalist or a subject matter specialist, just like Donatella. And so from our editorial board members through to foreign correspondents who have lived, in some instances, these incredible stories, they're going to be accompanying our groups, talking about their experiences and really giving you the backstory. We specialise in these small group tours, so no more than 28 guests, or else if it's not one of the land-based trips, you'll be joining us on one of our specialist cruises with the likes of Holland America and Cunard Cruise Lines. We visit destinations that tell a story, and obviously the Nepali story and the Bhutanese stories are very fascinating, and you will be hearing a lot more about those, but also the emerging destinations of Cuba and Myanmar as well. And also we incorporate into each of our itineraries exclusive access. So for this one, for example, you'll be meeting monks and hearing them speak. You'll also be dining with Nepali families as well to hear firsthand about their experiences and actually to experience what it's like living in these countries too. And so just a very quick overview of the trip. We only have one departure, and in fact, this is a brand new itinerary for us, just recently launched a week ago. So we're going to be traveling in November of this year. It's 11 days long, 11 days, 10 nights, and it starts in Bangkok. And you're going to be in Bangkok for the very first night where the group will meet. Days 2 to 5 are going to be in Bhutan, where you'll be visiting cities like Thimphu to get the first glimpse of the Himalayas, Punakha, the former capital, until 1955, and even the option of hiking up to the Taksang Monastery, the legendary Tiger's Nest. After that, we'll be heading over to Nepal. Days 6 to 11 of the itinerary are spent in Nepal. And that's where you'll be visiting, again, these stunning monasteries and temples, taking gentle treks around Pokhara, even a chance to learn about the struggles of the Tibetans, visiting a refugee camp there as well. Some of the historic sites, well, there are so many historic sites and highlights. A few of them, just one of the many zongs, you can visit Paro Zong, one of the most impressive and well-known in Bhutan. As I mentioned earlier, the hike up to the Tiger's Nest, if you'd like to. Visiting Pashupatinath Temple in Kathmandu, and I know Donatella is going to be talking about that later, as well as one of the villages that's very close to her heart, Bungamati, a very traditional Nepali village. The highlights, again, there are going to be so many, but just some of a few. Meeting with a Bhutanese author and a Nepali journalist, meeting a senior monk to learn about Buddhism and meditation, experiencing Nepalese hospitality as you dine with a local family in their home. Very, very quick whirlwind of everything. And with that, Rami, I know you are ready and eager to get going, so I'm going to hand over to you, and maybe you can take it away from Bangkok.
Sounds good. Thank you, Tori. So yes, we'll start out in Bangkok, and Bangkok offers easy access. Many flights go into Bangkok, and so it's good lift, and it also has a good flight to Paro, which we will be taking the next day. But when we arrive, we'll be met right outside customs, and someone will take us, our representative will walk us to the hotel, which is adjacent to the airport. The Novotel Hotel is it's actually a fine property, and you wouldn't believe that you're in an airport hotel when you walk in there. The rooms are very comfortable and spacious. It's got many amenities. There are 5 restaurants in the hotel. There's a Thai restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, a Japanese, international. So plenty of restaurants, very good internet. And the reason I'm saying good internet is because when we get to Paro, the internet's not going to be as fast as it is in an urban city like Bangkok. So we spend the night, and in the morning we'll meet our tour manager, and our tour manager will be a Nepali, a very well-educated Nepali who's traveled extensively throughout Nepal and Bhutan. He will meet us, and we will walk together to the vehicle and transfer to the airport. Our flight to Paro is 4 hours and 25 minutes. And as soon as we arrive in Paro, you will be transformed. Bhutan is a country, us in the travel industry, we think everywhere we travel, we feel that some countries are unique, some countries are okay, they're fine to travel. Bhutan really transformed me. I felt very different about Bhutan. It's a country that you leave and you say, wow, this is a unique destination. Very much off the beaten track. It's a country that still measures its success by gross national happiness. Least visited, non-hostile nation, and they love Americans. So when we arrive in Paro, we will transfer over to Thimphu. we will meet our local guide. So when we travel, we will have our tour manager, who's a Nepali, and he will act as a tour manager everywhere we travel. When we get to Nepal, he will be our local guide. But in Bhutan, he will be with us, taking care of all the logistics, but his efforts will be complemented by a tour guide or a local guide who is also born and raised in Paro. So when we arrive, we are going to drive to Thimphu, and Thimphu is the capital of Bhutan. The drive itself is a little over an hour, probably an hour and 20 minutes, plus we're going to stop to see a zong, and a zong means a fortress. Zongs can only be found in Bhutan. The zong we're going to stop and see is called the Simtoka Zong. It is the oldest zong in Bhutan. It dates back to 1629 AD. We will have some time at the hotel to rest and freshen up before, in the evening, meeting an author who will talk to us about the history of Bhutan, talk to us about his books, which are also about the traditions, the rich traditions of Bhutan and the uniqueness of these traditions. He's authored 5 books, and I'm sure that the travelers will really enjoy his insight. In the morning, on day 3, we'll drive up to the Dochula Pass. And the Dochula Pass is the highest altitude on this journey. It's at 10,000 feet. We'll walk through a village. We'll have an opportunity to interact with the locals and monks. It's a very small, Bhutan is a very small country, and we all know each other. So we'll have a nice welcome at the village as we're walking through it, and like I said, we'll stop and chat with the locals and the monks. We'll stay in Thimphu. We'll stay at the Diwa Spa and Wellness Resort, which is a brand new property that's going to open in May of this year. It's only 15 suites, so very intimate with great mountain views. Our rooms are very spacious, 538 square feet. And the amenities include a gym, a pool, and a spa. Like I said, there is Wi-Fi here, but just be aware that it's good to check emails and browse the internet, but to stream movies or videos, it's going to be extremely difficult. It's just enough to catch up and contact our families, let them know that we're okay. On day 4, we'll drive back to Paro. So an hour and a half drive back to Paro, and we'll stop to visit the Paro Zong. It is the most impressive of all the zongs in Bhutan, and within the Zong National Museum of Bhutan, it's inside a circular building. We'll stop to visit the museum as well. This and the rest of the afternoon is at leisure. So we've tried to relax and enjoy some of these places, and some time also to walk around and enjoy the cities and have a chance to talk with the locals. I'm going to jump ahead to day 5, and that is one of the most exciting days of the itinerary, I must say. This is a picture of Tiger's Nest Monastery. As you can see, it's a spectacular setting with the valley and the mountains surrounding the monastery. It's also exciting in terms of hiking up. So we'll take a bit of a hike today up to Tiger's Nest Monastery. We'll hike about 4 miles. That's total up and down. It's a half day. It's a half-day visit, really. We start early morning, and we'll be back at the hotel by, let's say, in time for lunch, right around 1 p.m. So we'll need good hiking shoes here for this day. We will provide walking sticks, and we'll have some porters helping us to carry our water or anything we need. It's like I said, it's a very exciting day, and if you don't want to hike all the way up, you can still get a close-up view of the monastery. If you climb halfway and stop, there's a cafeteria with with a bathroom, and we'll have some people to assist to take you down if you don't feel like continuing all the way to the monastery. Like I said, it's a spectacular visit, and it's not to be missed. In Paro, we'll be staying at the Meridian Hotel. Le Meridian Paro is also a new property that has a wide range of amenities. including a fitness center, an indoor pool, and a spa. We'll be staying in classic rooms, which are 345 square feet. There are two restaurants. One offers Bhutanese and Asian cuisine, and the other one is international. On day 6, we'll go to Donatella's Nepal. So we will. I said Donatella's Nepal because when I talked to Donatella, I learned so much over the phone from Donatella than I learned during my 2-week trip in Nepal and Bhutan. She has a wealth of knowledge, really. We will fly to Kathmandu, and the flight out of the runway is in the valley. So it's a dramatic yet exciting and thrilling landing and takeoff. You get so close to the mountains, and you feel like you can touch. You feel as if you could touch the villages nearby, which you can see from the plane closely. So it is really a spectacular flight, very scenic and a stunning scenery. We'll fly into Nepal, and our flight is about 2 hours into Kathmandu. And as soon as we arrive, we will head to the hotel for some rest. And with that, I will turn it over to Donatella to talk to us about the rest of the itinerary in Nepal. Over to you, Donatella.
Thank you. I also wanted to say I love Bhutan. I mean, the hike to Tiger's Nest was one of the highlights of my time in Southeast Asia and one of my highlights anywhere that I've been to around the world. And it's not only the hike, which is jaw-dropping beautiful, but it's inside the monastery at Tiger's Nest, which I have to remind the women that we have to cover our arms and our legs entering that monastery, and most of the other monasteries as well. But when you guys, arriving in Paro is very different from arriving in Kathmandu. I have to tell my little Kathmandu airport story. You're moving from a country of 770,000, which is Bhutan, to a country of 27 million. They're both mountainous countries. They both have the same ranges, and they both are surrounded by India on 3 sides and China on their 4th side. But the airport will be very different in Kathmandu than it is in Paro. It can be, depending on what time, we'll be arriving early in the morning. All the flights out of these high mountain airports leave early in the morning. And landing in Kathmandu is also very interesting, and you'll have an incredible view of the sprawl of Kathmandu. Now, in general, people refer to Kathmandu, but what they're referring to is the 3 kingdoms of the valley, which were Kathmandu, Patan, and Bhaktapur, which are now sort of greater Kathmandu, but are still distinct cities and distinct municipalities. So the hotel is maybe without traffic, it's 20 minutes from the airport. The airport's in the middle of town. And this temple that you see over there, the Pashupatinath Temple, which is a World Heritage Site, is right next to the airport. So if you miss the runway, there would be the golf course, and then there would be Pashupatinath. Pashupatinath is several hundred acres large as a compound. It is the holiest Shiva shrine in the world. And Shiva is one of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu. And this is built in honor of his incarnation as the Lord of the animals, Pashupatinath, the Lord of the animals. And yeah, there are many, many different compounds here. This is the largest place for cremations in Nepal. It's sort of if you live in Kathmandu and you're a Hindu, you want to be cremated here. And you'll see one on the temple. They're open air. It's not like in India where outsiders are not allowed to view it. People walk around. There are a lot of sadhus, the holy men, and there's definitely usually dozens of cremations every day that are done on the river. That's the holy river that will end up in the Ganges, and the ashes are put in over there. But what we're looking at right now is the upper on the right-hand side is the Golden Temple. This is the holiest shrine, and non-Hindus are not allowed to go in there. And one of the most famous visitors, contemporary visitors, that has come here almost every year since he became Prime Minister is India's Narendra Modi. But there are many other different sections to visit. You will notice there are a lot of stray dogs on the right. There's everybody. There's stray cows, there's stray bulls, there's a huge number of pilgrims from all over South Asia and from other areas of the world that come there as well to pray. There are there are parts of the temple that date centuries before, others that were destroyed in the 1934 earthquake. This was virtually untouched in the earthquake last year. This was one of the few World Heritage sites that had very little damage. On the way out, there's also a very, very interesting place that I hope that we might get a chance to visit, which is a very, very old building, which is an old age hospice, where people who are too poor or have been abandoned by their family, you die within the compound, all your sins are washed, and you go straight up to live with you don't reincarnate anymore. So that is the visit of Pashupatinath. Now, Kathmandu and Patan and Bhaktapur have together a whole collection of World Heritage sites. On the way to the hotel, which is the remind me the name of the hotel, guys?
It's the Hyatt Regency.
We will be staying at the Hyatt Regency.
Oh, that's right, the Hyatt Regency. A party and many a dinner at the Hyatt Regency. It is on the way it is adjacent to a Buddhist World Heritage site, which is Bodhnath, the stupa of Bodhnath. And the Hyatt Regency, I'd like to tell you, is one of the nicest hotels in Kathmandu. It is also incredibly earthquake resilient. It dealt very well without any damage at all from the 2015 quake. And because they service a high level of clientele, and they also have, in Nepal, you have to hoard fuel, you have to hoard propane, cooking propane, and they were very well equipped to stay open and to service their guests during the whole months of Indian blockade recently of Nepal. And it's a great hotel. It has a swimming pool. It has a spa. I don't think they have an indoor swimming pool, though. And Nepal has great Wi-Fi, or at least Kathmandu has great Wi-Fi. And you can also get SIM cards very easily. On day 7 I believe this is the day, this is one of my pictures taken in eastern Nepal in June of last year, which was part of to rebuild Nepal, you have to deconstruct Nepal. You have to pull down all the buildings that have been irreparably damaged and were keeling over so that people don't get injured, and also that people can reuse the stones and the wood and the corrugated iron. This is an elementary school that was being pulled down by volunteer Nepali engineers. We will be going to the town of Bungamati, which is right next to where I lived for 3 years. It's in the far south of the Kathmandu Valley. It's past Kathmandu, you cross a little bridge, and you enter the town of Patan, which are basically one and the same. It's just a bridge that separates them. And you keep on going, and you end up in this incredible countryside that in November it will be the wheat. They're beginning to burn their fields in preparation for the rice planting, and there's also going to be the rice planting starts in the middle summertime, and before that there's a whole variety of different crops that grow, including mustard fields, the bright yellow of mustard fields. Bungamati is an ancient Newar town. The Newars were the original inhabitants of the Kathmandu Valley, and they don't speak Nepali originally. I mean, they do now, but their lingua franca is Newar, which is a Tibeto-Burmese language. And much of the architecture that you see, the beautiful ancient darbar squares and temples, they are Newar architecture, and even architecture dating before that in the Mala kingdoms. And the Nepali came in 1757 with the invasion of Kathmandu, of the Kathmandu Valley. But so Bungamati is the pure example of Newar art. The town was very heavily hit by the 2015 quake. The Kathmandu Valley moved 1.5 meters in 5 seconds on April 25th at 11:58 a.m. 11:57 a.m. I believe. The initial shock lasted over a minute. Then there was 4 seconds where it stopped, and then the first aftershock went on for another 30 seconds after that. So for us who lived through it, it was really long, that first quake and then aftershock. Since then, there have been over 500 aftershocks, but the worst really were during the first few weeks after that, including a major aftershock in May of a 7.3. The first one was 7.8, the first earthquake, and then there was a 7.31 in May. Of Bungamati was totally destroyed. All the towns and villages that did not move in the same direction as the way the Kathmandu Valley moved in the quake were destroyed. Also, most of these are built in the traditional mud bricks with no cement in between, and are very prone to, they're very old, and with the exception of a few buildings that stayed up, the Kathmandu Darbar Square was pretty badly hit. Patan Darbar Square lost about five temples, did as well. But the most beautiful temple in Bhaktapur and the most beautiful temple in Patan survived. When we go to Pokhara, which is a quick 30-minute flight, it's like a commuter bus back and forth from Kathmandu. The Pokhara airport's an easy landing, and Kathmandu is an easy takeoff. So you will be on a circuit, and you'll be able to see the various, depending where we are and where we stay, the various, there are 4 Annapurna massifs and an Annapurna South as well. And probably the most famous mountain there is Machaputre, which is fishtail, which will follow you everywhere. They'll be all snow-covered. They're absolutely stunning. November's a great time to go. October, November are peak trekking seasons, so evenings are quite chilly. In the mountains, they're quite cold. But the daytime, I used to go, if it's sunny, I used to go around in a t-shirt. So this picture is of a Tibetan refugee camp in Weaving, in Tibetan refugee camps. The Tibetans started coming over in 1959, fleeing the push in by the communist regime in China into Tibet, and the Dalai Lama fled then as well. Many of them have stayed in the Kathmandu Valley. They are in Pokhara and they're in Kathmandu. So they keep a very low profile in Nepal. Many of those Tibetans moved on to live in Dharamsala. There is, however, a big population of Tibetans. Many have taken on Nepali surnames if they don't live in the refugee camp. That way, they're very big on carpet, in the carpet industry, and you'll see some stunning carpets, some great felt slippers. It's a great place to get felt slippers. I mean, Nepal, by the way, is a fabulous place for shopping. A lot of pashmina. Here's another, I don't know where the gentle trek is going to be, but you're surrounded by green terrace fields and wonderful paths to walk along. You can't see the snow-capped mountains from here, but they're basically, if you look at the ridges, they're all behind those ridges. And this is a summer picture when there's a lot of rain, so you see a shadow of a snow-capped mountain. Pokhara is definitely going to be less densely populated and a very different experience. There's the lake, which is absolutely stunning. You can walk around it. You can enjoy, take a boat on it, row to a temple in the middle of the lake. It is sunset and sunrise on that lake are jaw-dropping. And day 10, I believe we go back to Kathmandu. I'm waiting for day 10. Yes, we go to back at the same hotel in Kathmandu. These are the votive candles in another World Heritage Site in Swayambhunath, which is also called the Monkey Temple because it has so many monkeys that are absolutely everywhere there. So beware of of not feeding them, because otherwise they will run away with everything in your purse or in your hands. They're quite something. It was pretty badly hit by the earthquake. One of the interesting things, all the Buddhist temple, well, all the temples are surrounded by people that live there, so they're very interactive. As far as the Nepalis are concerned, these are shrines. These shrines are part of their life. It's not just a touristic occasion to visit them. Nepalis go there regularly. They bring offerings. They do prayers. This is Bodhnath, another Buddhist site, also a World Heritage Site. The top of that was had to be taken down completely because it was badly cracked in the earthquake, but it remains vibrant. There are mini monasteries all around this huge circle where you circumambulate with the monks, with the old Tibetan ladies, with the young Buddhists. There's great cafes around there. You can go to my favorite one, which is Roadhouse, where you can have fabulous cappuccinos and great pizza while you're overlooking the square. It is one of my favorite in all the world of all the Buddhist temples that I've been to. And this is Mahayana and Tantric Buddhism, which is very different from the Buddhism that you find in Japan or in Thailand or in Myanmar. And then I believe you guys is back to the frequently asked questions, so we hand it back to Victoria.
Wow, Donatella, thank you so much, and Rami as well. I mean, from sacred rocks to holy shrines, and the incredible itinerary that gives you this opportunity to hear firsthand about life post earthquakes, and also from Tibetan refugees as well. It's really quite something. So I'm sure loads of you have got questions to ask Rami and Donatella, and there is a panel in the right hand side where you can type those in, and we'd love those. So please fill those in right now. In the meantime, we have got some FAQs that come up time and again for each of our programs. So I'm just going to run through some of those now. Firstly, international air, is that included? Guests time and again are asking to use their air miles. They want the flexibility to be able to travel from and to the destination that best suits, so we don't include that. Visas are obviously a big question again. We'll be visiting 3 countries here. For US citizens, it's relatively straightforward for all of these. Thailand, you don't need a visa. Nepal, there is a visa needed. A $25 fee for 1 month, for one entry, or a $40 for 1 month. Bhutan, you'll actually get your visa processed by Abercrombie & Kent. They will help with that whole application process, and the fee for that is included in the cost of the trip. Dress code. Donatella touched upon some of that earlier about dressing modestly in temples and covering up. And these are quite conservative countries, so just show some respect as you're traveling. But really, I think layers just generally will go a long way because of the changing altitudes and weather. But we will be providing a packing list, so if in doubt, you should. That will give you plenty of guidance. The highest altitude is going to be 8,200 feet on this trip. So altitude may be an issue for some people, and as Rami said, for some of the hikes, there'll be people helping you there. And I'm sure that will be a question that gets asked as well about the hikes. And in fact, to that point, Rami, is anything... are there options for people that don't want to hike during the trip at all?
Definitely. I mean, there's always the option to rest at the hotel if you'd like to take a private tour of some sort. There are plenty of sites in Paro and in Timpo if people have issues with altitude, and we can definitely arrange those in advance and have a local guide accompany them.
Great. So really, if you think it could be an issue, or you want to just take it a little bit more gently, speak to us when you're booking, and we'll make the arrangements for you. And then just finally, around the best time of year to travel, it's going to be hopefully clear skies the majority of the time, relatively mild temperatures of 70 degrees the highs, and 55 degrees the lows. So the weather should be good. As I say, a fantastic itinerary. And so now I'm going to just open up and just see what questions we've had asked here. So maybe we've got a question here around the travel to the start of the trip. And I know that we've mentioned that a little bit as we've gone along, but maybe Rami, can you just recap on the flights that are included, excluded, and the process for those?
Definitely. So if after booking your journey, we'll be happy to help you with flights in and out. There are, like I said, Bangkok is an easy place to fly into, and Kathmandu also. There are plenty of flights now out of Kathmandu. Turkish Airlines, Qatar, they fly out of Kathmandu. We can help you with a flight to, if you'd like to fly in and out of Bangkok, we can arrange a flight back to Bangkok as well. Just as soon as as soon as you make your booking, we'll talk. We have a dedicated department here that books international air for our guests, and we'll be happy to arrange those and give you different options and different different rates as well. We have contracts with most airlines.
Great, thank you. And the roadblocks as well. I know you addressed that a little bit earlier, Donatella, but is that an ongoing issue, or do you think that it's come to an end now?
This started, a little bit of a background, this started in August, it lasted 5 months. On the Terai, which is the plain area that borders India, there's the Nepalis there are part of an ethnic group that has been historically very disenfranchised. And Nepal passed a new constitution after the earthquake. And they felt very left out, and they started roadblocks and blocking. Border crossings to India are very, very far away from Kathmandu. But in any case, as of I think 3 weeks ago, all border crossings have been open, and fuel is coming into. Nepal relies 100% on fuel and coming in, all petroleum products coming in from India. Well, not 100%. I would say maybe 90%. The rest comes in from China. But everything has been cleared up for the moment, and there's fuel in Kathmandu, and there's fuel for airplanes as well. I know. I believe there was a question about flying in and out of Kathmandu. Well, during the international flights never stopped. They didn't come as much as in daily frequency necessarily. They cut back on their flights during the unofficial, undeclared Indian blockade, because they never declared it because it would have been breaking international law. And but everything is fine right now, and all flights are refueled in Kathmandu, and it's easy to get fuel in Kathmandu, and the border crossings are fine. But in any case, it wouldn't affect us at all because we're in the mountains. We're far away from the border areas, and we wouldn't be going by land anywhere around those border crossings.
That's great to hear. Thank you. And then the final question is just being asked around dates and pricing, which is a perfect segue to the summary slide. So thank you, whoever it was that submitted that question. As I mentioned right at the very beginning, we only have one departure for this. This is a very, very special itinerary indeed. So we're going to be traveling in November of this year, November 2nd to November 12th. It's an 11-day trip with no more than 24 guests joining. It's $7,250 per person, double occupancy, or for single occupancy, there's a supplement of $1,495 with the internal air fee of $1,250, and that's so that the group's travelling together throughout. Obviously, I'm sure a lot more questions that pertain to your individual circumstances, so please don't hesitate to call our call centre on 855-698-7979 to ask us those, or of course to book as well, as there is only 24 spaces available. It is sort of first come, first serve. Of course, we also have it up on the website. So if you go to just type in timesjourneys.com, and that will take you to our website, and then you'll be able to search for our Bhutan and Nepal trip as well. So just for the very last time, I'd like to thank both Rami and Donatella for joining us today.
It was a pleasure, Victoria.
Thank you from Turkey and thank you from Chicago. We hope that you'll get to travel with Donatella very shortly. To book, as I mentioned previously, it's 855-698-7979, and we look forward to everybody joining us on a times journey very shortly. Thank you.